I think I've had a lot of luck with what I do is because, you know, I speak from the heart.
Yeah.
You know, everything I do,
and you don't give up.
That's right. And everything I do have a good intent. Whether people believe it or not, you know, I do have good intent with everything I do. And, you know, I try to do things, I think about how it's affecting different people. You know, why I tried to create such a good image with the medicine wheel dispensary was because I wanted to respect my community. I wanted to do this in a way that was good, respectful, professional, you know, that portrayed our culture as well. You know, we'd have drumming going on, you know, we'd be doing a smudge, and, you know, customers come in, oh, what's that you're doing? And you get to explain it to them. They're like, oh, you know, do you mind if I try doing that? So I was trying to use it as a way to educate people about our culture and get people into the community. And it was tough at first, you know, because of, again, the stigma of cannabis. You know, Alderville started becoming known as the Green Mile, and, you know, some people were uncomfortable with that. Yeah. I think there's an opportunity for us to actually use this to spin it. Yeah, you know what? Alderville is, you know, might possibly be a cannabis community, but look what it's doing for the people. Look at the changes. And, you know, point in fact, with the latest newsletter and our band council saying that they're interested in becoming growers and giving the profits to the community and not going through the government route. I think that is a huge stand in sovereignty. And, you know, we get more and more communities doing this kind of stuff and standing up. It's going to change. It's going to change everything for us. And
yeah, you'd be like a little town or a city, creating your own revenue. And that's what First Nations have to do. But they need an economy first.
That's right. You need that economy. So how do we build that economy? And my fear was it's going to turn into the tobacco industry.
You're at the leading edge here.
Yeah. The tobacco industry was huge when it first started. I saw a lot of people doing very well, but then, you know, amongst their own people, it became a price war to the bottom, and it was always people with the deepest pockets ones. So your average people got pushed out of an industry that could have been very lucrative, and I'm terrified of that happening with cannabis.
I was defending somebody in the cigarette industry, fighting with the province. I had to go to court 26 times. Yeah. Before the province just walked away from me.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's how do we do this so it doesn't put a negative perception on our communities, and, you know, a lot of that's just time, and you know, I think, you know, people got to get past. It's not illegal anymore. Canada, you know, decriminalized it, and the only thing making it illegal on First Nations is band councils.
Yeah.
Right?
And they just don't know.
Yeah, and they don't know.
It's their ignorance about their rights. Well, I'm going to, the only way I can get to them is through my book. So, problem, of course, is the legal interpretation of it by the feds. And what was it? 1937, they declared it as a drug, or as a drug. But the reason they did that, and you can actually go back and look into the parliamentary discussions, was the members of parliament were afraid if their ladies smoked too much cannabis, they would prefer black men over them. No, that's a real truth.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. The perceptions out there. Yeah, that's funny.
That's a fact too.
Yeah.
But yeah, then again, you know, it's they never thought of sitting down with us and trying to work things out with us. Instead, it was always imposing.
But why would they?
Make us
doesn't benefit them, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't benefit them.
Yeah,
so.
and then blaming us because of our poor conditions. You know? A lot of band councils believe they have all sorts of authority because they're chief and council, not because. Well, most of them haven't looked at the reality of the legal situation they're really in, which is totally controlled by the Indian Act. Even the election. So the election for that chief and council doesn't apply to your rights at all, and they have no right to discuss your rights or your lands.
See,
but they don't know that. See.
Absolutely. It's different in Alderville here. We don't have a traditional council.
Yeah.
We do elect our own band council. And
okay. But then what you've got to do is, you've still got all the principles that you have. What you've got to do is, traditionally, here's how the system worked, is usually all the families were involved, and then you had the senior elder of each family, and when they got together, of course they all appointed their chief. They put the chief in who was best suited in place, and my family was a traditional one too, so I'm actually a traditional chief, but they all worked together, and of course when the Indian Act came about, they threw all of that out and imposed this, and imposed it by law in 1892, that you couldn't use your traditional system of government. You had to use the one imposed by the Indian Act, which had no protection for your rights or anything, and you were just totally obligated to the minister, or he could deny any decision you made. So don't give you much rights.
No, and I think part of my journey, I did start out very sovereign, like forget the government, forget band councils, that kind of stuff. But I soon came to realize that in this day and age, there's got to be some kind of ground to negotiate on. I believe that's the reconciliation, or it makes it very hard to get anywhere.
I think the shit's going to hit the fan soon enough on that, because there's this huge clash between rights and their imposed legal system.
Yeah, and, but I do applaud our band council for taking this approach.
Yeah, hey, that's great.
And this is why I'm not completely anti-band council. Yes, sometimes they're not great,
but not all councils are like that. A lot of them are. This is what I'm finding out, is that because their primary task seems to involve ghetto programs, an application of ghetto programs to the community. That's all they do, and they, of course, got no authority to do anything else. So they just manage ghetto programs, and so that doesn't help your economy. It doesn't help actually anybody in the res, and so you end up with a division between this club, chief and council and staff, and the regular people, and that's happening all over the place. Because if they say, how come you can't do anything? How come?
It's very confusing. It's so confusing, right? To try to learn all this stuff.
Yeah. I can sort it out for people, but that takes time, and even still, you still need some background. Most people have never read the Indian Act.
And even reading it doesn't mean you understand it.
No, and it's I'm finding most chiefs and councils are scared of me.
Yeah.
They're really scared of me. Oh, gee, it's terrible. I'm the one that really help them.
Yeah, I know myself. I definitely pushed some buttons with my own band council.
Yeah.
But I was respectful. I believe I was respectful in it. I try to understand everyone's perspective, but at the same time, when I see an opportunity, I'm someone that will try to jump all over it. And I was gently trying to push band council, but I didn't understand the whole complexities around band council. I didn't know how controlled they were by government influences and that kind of stuff. And I didn't understand the liability attached to elected band councils. So that opened my eyes up a bit more, and being a realist again, I wanted to try to, I know there's elected band councils, I know there's traditional, I wanted to try to find something that could appease both.
Yeah. I tell people that chief and council elected under the Indian Act should not be called chief and council. They should be called John A. MacDonald Club, because that's all they are. And they're with no authority.
And I don't even know if a lot of people
that's
fully understand
reality.
that concept, even when they're getting on band councils and stuff, fully understanding.
But see, they assume that they have all sorts of authority in all different areas, you know. And they come down and sit and talk about it, and they got to try to find out, well, how do we do this, or where did this come from? Why can't we make a ruling on this or that?
How I see it almost is that elected band council are hired to run a business following certain rules and regulations, essentially. So the community is that business.
They run programs.
Yeah, and then they run it. Yeah. So it's become a business as opposed to.
Yeah. They operate. They have rules they have to follow, and it's audited and whatnot. But it's they still have no traditional authority. And like I said, when I tell people that they shouldn't even be called chieftain council, that's an insult to our traditional people.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, absolutely.
For us, the equivalent thing would be the 1764 Treaty of Niagara, where all of our people officially joined the British as allies to fight off the Americans, their cousins, the Americans, right up to 1814, and that's what we did. And it was the Indians that won those battles, and not the British soldiers. They ran away.
and you look at the wars. You look like this community. I know Alderville. When the first, Second World War was happening, a lot of our community went and fought.
Same with us.
And to me, that's that means a lot. And
I had 5 uncles in the Second World War.
I grew up kind of naive and almost being proud of Canada. And it's heart-wrenching to look back now, and things are starting to come together. I believed in politics. I believe police were good. I believe politicians were good. I believe Canada was good. But you start looking back and everything. It was just me being completely naive and blind to reality. And so I was very disheartened to start learning all this stuff. But again, I think it's important to we understanding the past and stuff, but we also need to focus on the future and the best way to move forward.
But here's something from the past as well. American, now you have a Canadian Prime Minister here, but you also have an American President. So when after War of 1812 and the Jay's Treaty, Americans, because we straddle the borders, Americans recognize us as, over there, 1823 Marshall case said they recognize us as dependent domestic nations. Well, whatever that means. A little racist, but it means that you also have an American president.
Yeah, and that's totally right. I do have a social security number. I did live in the States.
No, but this is even before that. Yeah, me too. I worked over there about 10 years. But that's I find people are a little shocked to hear that. It's my president over there too.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Kind of scary.
Yeah. There's a lot of anomalies in this.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting, I think, to see where things are going to go in the future. But we're starting to see, Indigenous people garnering more strength, with the pipelines, with the drinking water, with the housing crisis, more and more people are starting to come together, and that's where we need to be as a unified voice, And what even with the cannabis going around to different communities, everyone's doing little different things. No one's sharing. There wasn't like what's the term? Repository of information of that knowledge, which is actually hurting us more. So that's, and then you have things like the FN or the Nishnawbe Nation that are trying to get in there as well. But again, it's an arm of the government, essentially. It's a government-funded program.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing outside of them. And you see, the union locked me out of the offices, and I was the one that built that organization.
And like for me, even with the COVID and stuff, there's been some money from the reserve going into the people. And my question is, okay, is this government money or is this our own money that we have put away? If it's government money, hand it over. I'll gladly take it. If it's our money, you know what? I don't need it. Save it for our people. And you know, but even then, it's confusing to navigate through all of that. But
okay, I'm gonna.
Got it. Nighttime pain's indica. This one is a heavy indica to really help you sleep, and the balance is a 1-to-1, so 1 part THC to 1 part CBD.
Oh, yeah.
And then what we have here, and these sell really well, these topicals as well. We have the relief, which is 2 parts THC to 1 part CBD, and the healing, which is a 1-to-1. And we get a lot of elderly folk coming into our store. You know, we've had people in their 80s and 90s coming in. People with arthritis.
Elderly would just love this.
People with arthritis, rub it on their hands. You can see, they can do it right in the store, not with COVID now, obviously, but you know, you could see them being able to move their hands, that swelling coming down, and you know, they're almost blown away by it. Yeah. We include a sample of our RSO as well. So it's great for you know, using as an edible before bed. It's great as a topical. People with skin cancer, that kind of stuff, it's great to put that on as well. And then just a lanyard here. So we'll give that to you. This is a little takeaway. But no, I'm really glad to be sitting and chatting with you. I think it's a lot. Learning curve for me. I'm actually excited and to be able to meet you. You know, I'm honored. I think again, the question I asked you, where would we be without, you know, Section 35? Yeah. Scary to think about it, right? So, you know.
Well, I was a bulldog in there.
Yeah, and that's what we need, right? We need, you know, bulldogs and you know, persistence.
They couldn't intimidate me no matter what. Yeah. Well, every once in a while, you know, you'd end up getting in a fight someplace at somebody, and most of the time I could talk my way out of it, but every once in a while, always the smallest little guy would come at me. I usually just pick him up and put him up there. Yeah. Well, it's, you know. That was the end of them. They didn't.
Well, most fights end on the ground. Yeah. You got wrestling skill. That gives you the advantage to end up on top on the ground.
They're done. Yeah. A task for all First Nations to try to figure out, or finally figure out. Well, you know, hell, I could do models for them if they want, but I haven't got to that point yet.
So they've talked about abolishing the Indian Act. Where would that put us?
Oh, that'd be even better. It means that we're totally controlled by Section 35, our nation. Okay. But you still need
something.
You need laws. You need you need to control.
Structure.
And so you've got to probably do it all at once. And but the Indian Act is probably going to go. I even advocate it going, even though. Well, actually, what I advocate is get rid of the racism out of it. Get rid of the racism, because you can still use it as a funding vehicle. You know, Indian affairs, but the government shouldn't be running Indian affairs. It should be us, and it should be based on a better distribution of the finances that are raised on our resources and lands.
Okay. So that's very interesting, because I wasn't like you know, you heard, you know, getting rid of the Indian Act, and that's a good thing, but I didn't fully understand why, because it was like we refer to the Indian Act sometimes to protect us. Okay. I was like, oh, are we losing protection by this? But you mentioned Section 35 gives us that protection.
There's processes in it. This is the only thing that people want to say, but the processes are all pretty bad. They need to be upgraded. They need to fit in under Section 35, under your nation's authority. That's how they need to fit. But you still need them things, you know, to maintain order. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do yet. That's probably the best way to look at it.
Now, for the cannabis industry, where do you kind of predict and see it going? I know Isidore Day, for example, you know, was talking about a hybrid approach is what I've been supportive of. Most recently, he's been, you know, taking more of the provincial stance. Now he has reasons for that, but where do you kind of see it going?
Okay. Problem with the provinces, they're going to have a lot of problems with us because they're simply a sub-corporation of the federal government.
Yeah, generally we don't even deal with the province.
No, they have no authority to do anything on a reserve, really. They've been assumed they have all sorts of authority, and a lot of times the feds will give them things, but it still clashes our rights and our legitimate rights. So a lot of this stuff's got to be sorted out. You'd think our political organizations would have got into it. But
and how long has this been going on, you know? Is there an end in sight?
They have no clue themselves, you know. And I talk to them sometimes, like I said, they're scared of me. And they shouldn't be, you know. There's no reason. Sure, they sing the praises of 35, you know. They never talk to me. They won't even just.
Yeah, it's silly. I mean, in my mind,
the national organization does. They call me all.
You being a co-author, you know, I think why wouldn't they talk to you? You know, I think that's so important to, again, it's understanding interpretation, understanding why it was done and the mechanisms and that Aboriginal right term and why that was done that way. And, you know, I think that's so important to know all that stuff.
And enforce their laws on our nations, our different nations. It's a quandary. And,
they don't want to come out directly and attack us because the last thing they need is another battle, right? They don't want that negative perception of them. They're trying to show that they support Indigenous. So you know, that gives us protection. I think in the interim, is that I don't think they'll want that negativity. The way they're trying to do it, I think, is a very smart way by, you know, lowering prices and getting so many stores opened up around the reserve that it outcompetes us. And my goal is to keep that market share and you know, and that's where we have to be smart. We have to be smarter than them. We have to be united. You know, that we don't get non-natives exploiting us because of our rights. And we come up with a term which is jurisdictional arbitrage. You know, our rights that we have on First Nations land. And you know, I even got sucked into that. I realized I was, you know, working with some non-natives on products, and I was going to my store. I soon started to realize, wait a second, I'm allowing to happen exactly what I'm preaching against. You know, so I've made some changes, and my goal again is to, you know, not support that. Not that I have anything against some of those craft people. They pioneered the cannabis industry, but at the same time, I want to support Indigenous. You know, and that's where my loyalty lies, is with Indigenous and the communities. So, you know, my goal again is to avoid products that, you know,
mine is probably to get the roadblocks out of the way.
So it's, you know, we're going in the right direction, and Band Council's statement saying they're doing this because they want to, you know, give back to the community, and because they want to provide safe, clean medicine. And this is exactly what I've been trying to promote, and so I think this is a huge opportunity. You know, growing is going to create more employment. It's going to keep our prices lower so we can compete with the government stores. You know, and again, it's just making that statement for sovereignty, which, you know, hopefully more and more communities will follow suit once they, you know, hopefully Elderville follows through with this if that's what the community wants, and you know, we'll make a statement, and then we'll start seeing, you know, other communities starting to follow suit. You know, it all starts.
It's happening all over.
It takes a couple strong people, a couple strong communities to make a statement, and then you know, you start seeing the ripple effect from that. And that starts getting traction, and when things start getting traction, you know how hard it is to shut it down. You know, you got that momentum. It's like, you know, that rocket ship. When you're taking off, it takes so much energy to get it going, but once you get out of the atmosphere, it's smooth cruising, and that's what it takes. It takes a massive amount of energy and massive amount of work, but once you got that momentum going, then, you know, things get much easier after that. So,
you know, so that you've got everybody involved.
That's right.
Everybody's got jobs. And,
and like, you know, some people, you know, we put a lot of money into their pockets. Like, you know, they started growing their basement. You know, and you know, they meet our standards, pass their quality control. You know, we buy that product from them. It puts money in their pockets, and, you know, everyone's benefiting out of it that way. And so that's why I've been trying, okay guys, like, it doesn't take much, you know, you want to bring in a bit of extra money. I need Indigenous flower, you know, set up a little grow in your basement, you know, and you know, fine tune it. I'll buy that flower, and the other dispensaries will buy that flower. We'll get it out on wholesale, get it to other First Nation reserves, and you know, there's money to be made from that. You know, or, you know, get into baking, you know, and creating those edible lines and that kind of stuff. And so that's what I've been really promoting, and, you know, trying to work on some kind of seed program where we can get people, feminized seeds, high quality seeds that they can grow, and turn that into an economic base, basically, to support families and all that kind of stuff. And just I see so much potential from it. It's I truly do. I think they talk about different prophecies and things like that, and I believe cannabis and hemp are going to be the tools that are going to drive a lot of change.